Hello again everybody, it's Kathy and Rosie Vesperina, and this is the follow-on from the previous videos where we were up at Kulnura for a little bite to eat, and now we are heading back home again. It's a bit later in the afternoon, I think about 2:30, and the ride is almost back in the same direction that we came out on, so similar roads, but of course things always look different from the other end. The motorbike that's coming up past quite quickly in a minute was nowhere near as scary as the motorbike that we experienced on the way up the mountain. You'll recall that was going really fast and scared the bejesus out of me and everybody else. But that guy that just rode past now was at a much more reasonable pace, and so we were fine with it. Riding with people from the group, again the female riders group, up the front is Marie and her husband, and then behind them is Summer on her cute little Honda, which was an automatic. Behind me is Marie's in front. Behind me is Fee, and then Joe and her son Alex. So learners, and not as confident on the windies as obviously the full licensed. So 2 full licensed riders and then us learners. The road was really good. It was windy, but not so windy that it was too much out of our comfort zones. A little bit on some of the corners, keeping in mind though we're not necessarily doing the speed limit that we're meant to be doing along here, so that's something I think we need to work on to keep up with the flow of traffic. I don't like to keep the traffic banked up behind, so we could have potentially gone a little bit faster, but given it was our first time, or some of us, it was our first time on the road, we need to go a little bit slower to just get our legs or wheels. It was beautiful this afternoon. It's I think the Garmin says it's 2:15 or 2:30 in the afternoon, and we're not in daylight saving at the moment, and so the sun sets around 5ish, so we had plenty of time to get home. I found it difficult to cut this video up because there were just so many nice pieces, or so many nice bits of roads that it's enjoyable to just watch the flow, so maybe we'll just do that for a few minutes. One of the things that I'm excited about with the riding at the moment is that I'm almost at 1,000 kilometres that I've ridden on Rosie. At 1,000 kilometres I need to get a proper service done on Rosie as per the manual. I had a mini service when I took Rosie out of storage, for want of a better word, because the battery had gone flat, but that was just a little zhuzh just to get her ready to ride again, whereas I think the 1,000 kilometre service requires a little bit more work. So when I get home I will book her in for the 1,000 kilometre service and see how that goes. how glorious is this day? We had quite a bit of rain leading up to the ride on this day, but this is fabulous. Excuse my little clean of the camera then. I was worried that I'd had a few bugs on the screen and it wasn't filming correctly, but it was fine now that I look at it. One thing that I haven't looked at much at all is the video that the dash cam or bike cam captures. You can see in the bottom left of the screen there is a little a couple of buttons there. That's to activate or to take a snapshot from the forward facing and rear facing cameras that are kind of like a dash cam. I can connect my phone to those cameras just to see what it's captured, so if I'm ever in some kind of an accident, at least I can, double check what I did wrong or potentially what the other person did wrong, just so I've got that evidence. It's called, I think, the NSW 7, so front and rear. I think 4K it captures. I think I've mentioned in other videos that sometimes riding Rosie feels a little bit like skiing. I'm an average snow skier, but particularly on this ride home, and because there were curvy corners and things, it almost felt like skiing down a ski run where you're skiing from side to side and slowly making your way down the mountain. That's kind of the same feeling I get when I'm riding Rosie on these mildly windy roads. I wonder if any other skiers feel that way when they're riding. One thing I don't do when I'm riding, I've noticed, is take notice of my GPS as much as I should. At the moment when I look at the screen, I can see I'm actually on the road that I should be on, so I had pushed in the directions to home before we started off, and now we're obviously on that route, but I don't often look down at it to check it, other than to check the time and the speed and compare the speed to the speed on the speedometer on Rosie. I think I've mentioned in other videos that they are out a bit, so it says I'm doing 60 on Rosie, but on the Garmin I think it says 50 something, 53, 54, so that's a bit of a difference. I'm not sure which one is the accurate one and which one I should take notice of, but others have said, if you're ever in a pickle and you have to talk to the police about whether you were speeding or not, then you should probably just take the one that's on the speedo on your vehicle or on your bike rather than the GPS. I don't know a lot about the technical aspects of it, other than the GPS takes its readings from how fast you're moving according to the satellites, and I think that the speedometer on Rosie takes it from, I guess, the wheels going round. Anyway, I tried to use Rosie's speedometer as my guide rather than the Garmin for that reason. Not as much traffic or bikes on the way home as there was on the way up the mountain or hill. I'm not quite sure why that is. I guess people are heading home as we are heading home, and so they've left the mountain. Look at that gorgeous house on our right as we go past. Oh, just beautiful. I always say when I win lotto I'm going to buy a little farmlet. Not a big farmlet because I wouldn't be able to work a farm, I don't think, but just something small off the main road. It doesn't have to be big. 2 or 3 bedrooms is more than enough, just so I can potter around, have a little bit of a veggie garden. That would be ideal, but still close enough to town that I can go in and do my grocery shop if I have to. And get deliveries, of course. So beautiful through here. One thing I thought I would like to do on my next ride with Rosie, if it's still the cold weather, is to take a little thermos with a cup of tea in it. I often do that if I go for a hike or bushwalk, whatever you want to call it. If I'm gone for a while, I will take a little thermos. It only holds 1 cup of tea, but it's just enough to, have a little break, have a snack, and have a little cup of tea before you head back from your hike. I think I'd like to do the same when I go for these rides. So this ride back from Kulnura takes us back via Wyong. We'll turn left at the roundabout at Wyong and then head back towards Tuggerah and through the big traffic lights at Tuggerah and carry on through my favourite little bit of road in Palmdale, through Arimba, Narara, Wyoming, and then into North Gosford and home. It's a pretty familiar route now with my videos, so I probably will tend to cut out most of that because you've seen it before in the other videos. But for the moment, it's still this beautiful countryside. So many other places on the coast to explore that has similar beautiful countryside and good roads, so I think I'm a little bit spoilt for choice when it comes to riding Rosie. I gave Rosie her first wash, which is a bit crazy because I've had her a year and a half. But I gave her first wash a couple of weeks ago. I was a bit unsure about how I was supposed to do it, so I was very sparse with the water. I just used car wash liquid because I was worried about water getting into where the controller for the INOV 7 dash cam or bike cam is. I was worried about water getting in to the little hole where the wires go in. The car shop that installed it had to obviously cut a hole in Rosie to put the wires through, and they didn't have a grommet to fit the hole that they'd cut to close it off. I put one in later on, but I was still nervous that water might get in there. So I was a bit cautious with how I washed it, but she just had a bit of grime on her from, riding around in the dusty areas. You'll notice that there's a bit of a distance between myself and someone who's ahead of me, and I've said before, I really don't like riding really close if I can help it to the person in front of me. The instructor, when we learnt, said you need to sort of count 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000 when you get to a marker point to see how far you are behind someone, and you want to be around that 3 1,000 mark, or 3 1 and 2 and 3, just in case there is an accident ahead, and need to give yourself enough time to respond and to get yourself out of danger. So I try to maintain that as much as I can, rather than riding right on the rear of another bike. I don't know if other people do that, but I'm the same in a car. I like to give a lot of space when I'm driving my car as well, just to be safe. I'm probably much more than 3 1,000s away from the person in front of me from Summer at the moment. You can see why I found it so difficult to cut the footage up, because it's all just so lovely. The scenery, that is. Look at those stark trees on the right as opposed to the trees on the left. So now we have gone through, I think, most of that area heading into Wyong, through Tuggerah, and now we're heading along that road near Palmdale that I like. It's a little bit very tree and a little bit of a windy bit, but there's just something about this section that I absolutely love. afternoon sun is just beautiful. You almost get a bit of a golden glow through the trees. So through that section now, and now heading into or through Palmdale. Heather Bay Prize is through this area and on the right. They do great custard tarts. So now we're heading up through Arimba, heading towards home. By the time I get home, the odometer is at 998 kilometers that I've done on Rosie. So close to 1,000. So close, but just a little bit more to go. So as I said before, I will book her in for a service so that she's in tip-top condition. Nearly home now, so thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.